Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The leader of a group of people. A captain of industry. The pilot in charge of an airship. A policeman in charge of a precinct. An officer who is licensed to command a merchant ship. A dining room attendant who is in charge of the waiters and the seating of customers. The naval officer in command of a military ship. An officer holding a rank below a major but above a lieutenant. Be the captain of a sports team. The leader of a group of people. The head of a tribe or clan. The pilot in charge of an airship. A policeman in charge of a precinct. A policeman in charge of a precinct. A combatant who is able to defeat rivals. Get on top of. Deal with successfully. An authority qualified to teach apprentices. Key that secures entrance everywhere. Be or become completely proficient or skilled in. She mastered Japanese in less than 2 years. An original creation, i.e., an audio recording, from which copies can be made. Presiding officer of a school. Have dominance or the power to defeat over. Her pain completely mastered her. A person who has general authority over others. An officer who is licensed to command a merchant ship. An artist of consummate skill. A master of the violin. Have a firm understanding or knowledge of, be on top of. Most important element. The master bedroom. Directs the work of others. Someone who holds a master's degree from academic institution. An officer who is licensed to command a merchant ship. An officer who is licensed to command a merchant ship. The naval officer in command of a military ship. A student who fails to attend classes. Work as the skipper on a vessel. A dining room attendant who is in charge of the waiters and the seating of customers. A dining room attendant who is in charge of the waiters and the seating of customers. A dining room attendant who is in charge of the waiters and the seating of customers. A featured article of merchandise sold at a loss in order to draw customers. A person who rules or guides or inspires others. Someone who is licensed to operate an aircraft in flight. Something that serves as a model or a basis for making copies. A program exemplifying a contemplated series, intended to attract sponsors. Someone who is licensed to operate an aircraft in flight. An inclined metal frame at the front of a locomotive to clear the track. Operate an airplane. The pilot flew to Cuba. Small auxiliary gas burner that provides a flame to ignite a larger gas burner. Act as the navigator in a car, plane, or vessel and plan, direct, plot the path and position of the conveyance. A person qualified to guide ships through difficult waters going into or out of a harbor. A member of a police force. Any person in the armed services who holds a position of authority or command. An officer is responsible for the lives of his men. Someone who is appointed or elected to an office and who holds a position of trust. He is an officer of the court. A person authorized to serve in a position of authority on a vessel. He is the officer in charge of the ship's engines. A member of a police force. It was an accident, officer. Direct or command as an officer. A member of a police force. A person authorized to serve in a position of authority on a vessel. Someone employed to provide service in a dining room. Someone employed to provide service in a dining room. A commissioned officer in the Navy. A commissioned officer in the Army or Air Force or Marine Corps. Be in charge of. The introductory section of a story. It was an amusing lead-in to a very serious matter. Take somebody somewhere. We lead him to our chief. Produce as a result or residue. Be conducive to. The use of computers in the classroom lead to better writing. Lead, as in the performance of a composition. A jumper that consists of a short piece of wire. It was a tangle of jumper cables and clip leads. A news story of major importance. Travel in front of. Go in advance of others. Lead, extend, or afford access. Move ahead of others, in time or space. Preside over. A soft, heavy, toxic, malleable metallic element. Bluish-white when freshly cut but tarnishes readily to dull gray. The children were playing with lead soldiers. Cause something to pass or lead somewhere. Stretch out over a distance, space, time, or scope. Run or extend between 2 points or beyond a certain point. Be ahead of others. Be the first. An actor who plays a principal role. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. The police are following a promising lead. Thin strip of metal used to separate lines of type in printing. Restraint consisting of a rope, or light chain, used to restrain an animal. The timing of ignition relative to the position of the piston in an internal combustion engine. An indication of potential opportunity. A good lead for a job. Mixture of graphite with clay in different degrees of hardness. The marking substance in a pencil. An advantage held by a competitor in a race. He took the lead at the last turn. A position of being the initiator of something and an example that others will follow, especially in the phrase, take the lead. He takes the lead in any group. Baseball. The position taken by a base runner preparing to advance to the next base. He took a long lead off first. Cause to undertake a certain action. Sports. The score by which a team or individual is winning. Tend to or result in. This remark lead to further arguments among the guests. The angle between the direction a gun is aimed and the position of a moving target, correcting for the flight time of the missile. The playing of a card to start a trick in bridge. The lead was in the dummy. Computer science. A tiny electromagnetic coil and metal pole used to write and read magnetic patterns on a disk. Be in charge of. Who is heading this project? A person who is in charge. The head of the whole operation. That which is responsible for one's thoughts, feelings, and conscious brain functions. The seat of the faculty of reason. I couldn't get his words out of my head. Be the first or leading member of a group and excel. This student heads the class. The educator who has executive authority for a school. The upper part of the human body or the front part of the body in animals contains the face and brains. He stuck his head out the window. Travel in front of. Go in advance of others. The procession was headed by John. The part in the front or nearest the viewer. He was at the head of the column. A line of text serving to indicate what the passage below it is about. The heading seemed to have little to do with the text. A V-shaped mark at one end of an arrow pointer. A difficult juncture. Matters came to a head yesterday. Forward movement. The ship made little headway against the gale. Oral stimulation of the genitals. They say he gives good head. A dense cluster of flowers or foliage. A head of cauliflower. The subject matter at issue. Under the head of minor Roman poets. Direct the course. Determine the direction of traveling. The source of water from which a stream arises. They tracked him back toward the head of the stream. A natural elevation, especially a rocky one that juts out into the sea. Grammar, the word in a grammatical constituent that plays the same grammatical role as the whole constituent. A membrane that is stretched taut over a drum. An individual person. Tickets are $5 per head. A projection out from one end. The head of the nail. A rounded compact mass. The head of a comet. A single domestic animal. 200 head of cattle. A user of, usually soft, drugs. The office was full of secret heads. Be in the front of or on top of. The list was headed by the name of the president. Form a head or come or grow to a head. The wheat headed early this year. Nautical. A toilet on board a boat or ship. Remove the head of. Head the fish. Take its rise. These rivers head from a mountain range in the Himalayas. That part of a skeletal muscle that is away from the bone that it moves. The foam or froth that accumulates at the top when you pour an effervescent liquid into a container. The beer had a large head of foam. The front of a military formation or procession. The head of the column advanced boldly. The length or height based on the size of a human or animal head. He is 2 heads taller than his little sister. The pressure exerted by a fluid. A head of steam. The rounded end of a bone that fits into a rounded cavity in another bone to form a joint. The head of the humerus. The striking part of a tool. The head of the hammer. The tip of an abscess, where the pus accumulates. The top of something. The head of the stairs. To go or travel towards. Where is she heading? Usually plural, the obverse side of a coin that usually bears the representation of a person's head. Call heads or tails. A commissioned officer, especially one in the Royal Air Force, equivalent in rank to a colonel in the Army. The head of the police force in a county, or similar area. The captain of a flagship. The military forces of a nation. Their military is the largest in the region. Associated with or performed by members of the armed services as contrasted with civilians. Military police. Characteristic of or associated with soldiers or the military. Military uniforms. Of or relating to the study of the principles of warfare. Military law. The military forces of a nation. The military forces of a nation. The military forces of a nation.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.